So this is the 2024 Christmas release with Stampers Anonymous. It is 5 cling-mounted stamp sets, layering stencils, and of course the minis. I'm going to take you through and talk about the images of each set, and then we will get into the makes. It's going to be just great fun. All right, so let me just move all of these aside, and we'll start with this set. This is the Holiday Whatnots. This is CMS 496. Now, I talked when we launched Halloween about these whatnots, and I love the different types of art. I've said it every single time, and this will be no different. I don't draw. I license all of the art that I've done with Stampers Anonymous. Sometimes it's scanned in vintage ephemera, other times it's licensed from artists that love to draw, and I really love this lettering style. So when we did the Halloween whatnots, it was really great that this artist also did a holiday version. I just think it's not only fun to have the different typography. There you go, that's Let It Snow. Not Let It Now. It is Let It Snow, but it's hidden under there. Have a Merry Christmas, Merry and Bright, Silent Night. I love that little lantern there. Happy Holidays, Joy to the World, Magical December, and Holly Jolly. So I like that it has not only the typography, but also just the little icons and elements in there. It's just a fun set. And you'll see some great ideas for makes, especially for the holiday season, because it can do tags, gift tags, you name it. It's great. Then we have this next one. This is Forest Floor 2. So when you see that number 2, that means that there is a 1 that exists. It's not really called number 1. It was just Forest Floor. But what this is just some really great illustrations that I love for a botanical element for the season, because maybe you're not doing Christmas, maybe you just want some winter themed, or maybe you like to do outdoors or camping or any of that. And when I saw this art, I thought that it complemented the original Forest Floor that I did many years ago. Forest Floor is known for bigger images, so I've done a lot of greenery over the years, but the original Forest Floor stamp set has some really big elements and different pine cones and pine branches, and so Forest Floor 2 really complements that set. One of my favorites, I can't lie, is this wood slice. I love this wood slice drawing. These are all illustrations, so they're not even vintage etchings or anything, although they have a great vintage appeal to them. This really large berry branch, the holly, wonderful pine cone, this pine, but again, that wood slice. And you'll see the inspiration from the makers of how these stamps can be used in so many different ways. So many different ways, but yeah, I do love it. The detail, I mean, that's really the benefit of rubber. When you have a red rubber stamp, you can really pull out all of the detail in a lot of these images. So that is Forest Floor 2. All right. Then we get into another favorite. Take a look at this one. This is called Home for Christmas, and it's CMS 498. Now, Home for Christmas was really inspired by the Curiosity Shop that I did in July. It was one of those sets that had a really cool kind of a wood cut or a lino cut design to the images, where it had really bold shading lines, but I loved all of these elements, and so I wanted to create a Christmas set with it. So stylistically, and you'll see in the makes, there are some great things in Curiosity Shop. That's the one that had the typewriter, the pointy finger, that great number strip. So these images from both scale and appearance, style-wise, work well together. But it's also paired with a lot of different typed sentiments, because there again, in that Curiosity Shop stamp set, it also has the same typed style. So I think that that's really important. If you like that set, I think you're going to love Christmas. But I mean, let's just talk about this car for a minute. I love the car with the tree on top. It is the same image, but you'll also see from the makers that you could easily stamp this and cut off the tree and put other things with it. It has a great little package tied up with string, a stocking, little pine branch, a snow globe, some holly and a pine cone, some little ornaments. But yeah, a lot of different great sentiments, and you'll see some of the sentiments actually work with the typewriter from that original set. So yeah, that is Home for Christmas. Great designs. I love it. Now pause and let us look at this. This set, this is Mr. Frostie. I have wanted for many years to actually do a snowman stamp set. And, you know, looking at different types of images, I've had some snowman throughout the years, but I really wanted something that would be just had a great charm to them, because I think there is something magical about the wintertime, and I think there's something magical about when you look at a snowman, that it has a personality to it. And so when I saw this art, I really loved not only the fact that the artist created that full snowman, but also kind of this perspective, because it's not the same where we just cut off the head. It's a completely different drawing. And I really loved the charm of this. And you'll see again from the makes how beautiful these pair with just using a snowman or some winter elements. So it's got a really large branch that will fit right over an A2 or even a slimline card. There's also different snowflakes. These are kind of sketchy to go with this vibe. And then a favorite font. I've used this for Halloween. I use this in the Frame Frights. I also used it for previous Christmas sets, but I really love seeing this image and how it could be used, not only with the snowman, but really for other Christmas time makes. So I think it's really good. That is Mr. Frostie. You'll see again from the makes, the scale of it and how he really can be brought to life in a creative style. So great set.
From the sounds of the chat, Mr. Frostie is going to be your #1 set.
Well, you never know, because this guy, well, he happens to be my favorite. I mean, I like both of them, but this, I saved it for CMS 500. This is Santa Visit, and you can see I packed a lot of elements on it. I really love the idea of Santa because I always try to do different Santas, and I always say that I want it to have a vintage vibe, but I want it to have personality. And I think this guy really does, because he's kind of sitting back in his chair. You know, maybe he just delivered some presents and he's taking a quick break. But I love that he's got his sack full of presents and some packages here. There's some little sketch presents just like these, but they're a little bit bigger. I love this tree. I mean, really, this set has some great elements just standalone. So even if you don't use the Santa, it's a great tree because it's different than a bottle brush tree. It's more of like a vintage feather tree. I love how open it is. It's got the baubles. You will see, though, that from a scale perspective, it can be used with the Santa. It can be put behind him. Or if you wanted to just use the tree, that's why I did separate packages. There's a great little ribbon, and the ribbon can be used anywhere you want, but we did this vintage postcard tile. Paula actually brought this. She's like, I really wish we could do something with a postcard, and I was able to create something and mimic a vintage postcard header with little bits of holly. We can, of course, add a bow to it. This is a great ticket strip. This ticket strip was inspired by what we did for Ideology Christmas, so I love that Admit One tickets. But take a look at this. This was from an old telegram as well. We'll leave North Pole tonight, arrive at your house Christmas Eve, Santa Claus. So just the fact that it's this kind of handwritten style, it's not really a font or typography, adds just a level of charm to this set. And again, you'll see from the makes that a lot of makers used images from here without Santa. Many of them use Santa, but there's so many great strong images without him that I think you'll love the set. And then December 1931, there's no significance for me for the 1931 date other than it was just scanned from an original calendar from 1931. So we just kept the date in there. And I love having just a vintage December calendar. So that is Santa Visit. So we've got that. We've got Mr. Frostie, Home for Christmas. We've got Forest Floor 2, and of course the Holiday Whatnot. So many different styles to choose from, but all have a great appeal to add for your holiday stamping. Now we'll talk real quick about the stencils. So for the stencils, I love just having some different stencils that could either be used as a focal point or could be used as a background or a texture. And the stencils are available in 2 sizes. They are individually sold in the large size, and then the collection is combined together in a mini size. And this reduces scale and everything. This, I just love the idea of a bauble tree. Maybe you just want to use it for bubbles. Maybe you're going to kind of create, you get rid of the star and you create a little pennant, of bubbles in your backgrounds. But I love that if you wanted to do embossing glaze or metallic embossing powders or glitters, you really can create a beautiful bauble tree. If you don't want a star, easy to mask it off, but I just love the circles of that. Then this one, I've done a lot of different fades, I call them, where the image actually fades out. It kind of disappears. We've done dot fade in the collection, and this one is just kind of like a sparkle fade. I love just the little sparkly kind of starburst where we have some large elements for a concentrated texture, but they also fade out. So again, you can use this with snowfall paste or crackle, or if you want to use it with embossing or just inking. I love the idea that we have a design that will fade into the background that can either be kind of sparkly or even kind of snowy. So this one got used quite a bit. And then this one, this is charming. I just think it's important to always have different scale in mind when it comes to creating stencils. We did a poinsettia one, it was a while ago, that was a tiny little poinsettia, and it creates a really nice repeat pattern if you're doing stuff in the background because you can just kind of patchwork this, and I just love the style of the holly. I thought it was just had a great little modern look to it that definitely complemented the poinsettia. So if you have that mini poinsettia, it's great to mix and match and use them together. So I think that's really nice. And of course, all of these are in the mini, and that means the scale is smaller. So a shout out to Matt who does his work on this, because I give him the art and I'm like, this is what I want, but I want to make sure that the design works in both sizes. So it is important, like, you know, for example, something like this fade, that he starts with the small size to make sure inks and mediums and stuff work with the little stencil and then kind of carry out. I do think it looks like little arrows. It's cool. So hey, maybe people have ideas for other little elements in it. But yeah, a charming little set. So those are our stencils for the Christmas release. It's good. All right. So now we're going to get into the makes, and I want to talk about, I think, different ways to use it. And I always say, just approach this with such an open mind, because it is important that you understand that this is all about inspiration. So whether you're making Christmas cards or Christmas tags or wrapping paper or just Christmas makes for yourself, because yes, as makers, we can unapologetically make for ourselves for any time of year. Keep that in mind. That's what this is all about, inspiration. I hope you have a little pen and paper that you can kind of jot things down, where you can, you know, be reminded of these ideas as we approach the holiday making season. I know many of you are probably well underway by now. I am not. I usually like to wait until probably the day before. But hey, that is me. I'm going to start with stencils, and then we'll talk about each stamp set. So the stencils, these were cards that I felt really highlighted a lot of the stencils specifically. This is a card that Rochelle created. This shows that stencil really in exactly how it was designed to be. You can place it down and use any of your favorite inks, your glitters, your paste, and create this beautiful bauble tree. And it could be really any type of colors that you want to use, or any mediums that you want to put through it. And I love how Rochelle just did a wonderful blend, simple ink blend on the background, and then just used a little Joy to the World, which came from the Home for Christmas Time, that little type sentiment, mixing and matching. But this is also a great background if you had a big die cut word. We talked about large die words yesterday, where you can just put a big die over the front of it as well. So really, really great card. Very charming. This next card, Keisha created. It's always interesting when makers kind of channel, I mean, even down to like a very similar color palette. But I love how Keisha not only used the stencil, but then also did that little sparkle fade you can see with some metallic. You can use foundry wax, you can use, again, embossing glaze or paints. So I love how she's got that little layer of sparkle in there, and then using one of the holiday whatnots as the layer. Because the thing about the whatnots, they are very bold. So when you're putting those down, I mean, it will take over a background, which I think is also really nice. So beautiful cards. Then Kath, I always love that, really, Kath just makes so many things. And I love when makers just honestly just follow into their muse, whatever they're inspired to do. So these colors, I love the pink and black with white. So here's a little bit of crackle paste that Kath did through the mini bauble tree. She did a little splatter on the background. If you see, there you go. You can see that distressed spritz on that black cardstock. So see, the nice thing about spritz, think about that when you're doing wintry or holiday makes. When you look at something, it's one way, but then when the light hits it, because the spritz is just that mica, it doesn't have any ink colorant, it just shows up as a wonderful little surprise. I love seeing the little crackle in there, and she embellished it with little pearl baubles. But again, the pink and black, how cool. It's like grease is the word. I love it. And I love how she did this tree, the bauble tree, but then went in and not only put some sparkle paste. Can you see that? That little shine? I love that, Kath. Love that sparkle on there. But then even outline the circles. Just take a pen and create that circle outline, but also stamp in it. Remember, when your stencil is down, you can take stamps. So she used the little sentiments in there and just kind of stamp through your stencil and get those words in there. Isn't that great? What a great use for all the different designs in the set. And then you can see in the background that little bit of sparkle fade in there. And I love really when, this is the whole thing again about compartmental making. If you've got a color palette you like, or you've got certain products out, just go for it. So here she layered this. This, I'm guessing, like there's another stencil over it. Like when you create this, it's almost like you can stack the stencil. So maybe she took, or maybe she masked it off. I'm not sure. She either masked it or used another stencil. But I love how she's got the black texture paste in there and then added some glitter over the top while the paste was wet. Just adds that wonderful, see, diamondy sparkle, especially over black. And then just use the different sentiments, and you can see the holly back there. See, that's what's nice about the stencil. I know that when you first look at it, it's a little underwhelming, like wah, wah. But that's the thing about stencils, is sometimes it needs to be the focal point, and other times you want to use it as like a little fill in the blanker. So keep that in mind. I love just that little bit of white crackle of the holly. So fun cards, right? Just again, just Kath just makes. She's like, I'm going to make.
Love the pink and black. I mean, everyone is just blown away by it.
It's just how it is. It's like Kath is like, I'm going to make, but I'm going to make a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot. And that's what it's all about. So Joy created this card. Again, just going in, you can take embossing glazes, you can highlight any of your background stamps, and you can create a card. Maybe you're not into the bright colors. Maybe you want something a little bit more vintage. So you can ink the edges. And again, the embossing glaze, because it's translucent, is not only going to add shine, but it's also going to reveal what's underneath it. So in this case, when it's done over either a piece of vellum or translucent Yupo, it just kind of adds a little magnify glass type element to it. Isn't that cool? Different products create different results, and I think that's what we have to remember also when you have stencils. That's why we love stencils, because we can use so many different mediums through it, from different types of paste to stamping. So Kuber created this. I love just the black card. I'm just going to see really if I can get there we go. I'm going to try to get the light to hit it. So this, you can see, is black cardstock. This is distress black heavy stock. And then through a stencil, there is texture paste. I'm guessing it's just a regular white matte texture paste. And then distress embossing glaze. So the glaze, because it is a translucent embossing powder, so this looks like a lot of the new colors. So this is like the new shaded lilac glaze that we launched on Monday this week. Perhaps this is, maybe a little tumbled glass or evergreen bough. You can sprinkle your colors, and because embossing glaze is translucent, it really will blend as if it was inked, and it also gives you that wonderful shine. And then I love how she just added some little embellishments just to add a little sparkle, and look at that cool stitching around the edge with that teal thread. Beautiful. I love that. It's Wonderful Life. Yeah, see, the black is very dramatic, isn't it? I think when you see these, that's really why I wanted to pull these out, because I'm like, man, these makers just, the stencil is, especially you can see the bauble tree is very, very popular. Sharon created this one, again, using embossing glaze. Now, you don't always have to use texture paste when you're adding your glaze. You can even do embossing ink through a stencil if you want. It just depends on how dimensionalized you want this to be. But there again, it's like painting with powders. Just take little bits of color and kind of pinch through that. We've done a lot of tutorials on painting with embossing powders, but it just adds a great little element. I love how she used just a sentiment as kind of the base of that tree when you see that card, and then also just a little mirrored star for the top and a sewn detail. So great, Sharon. I love really all the different colors as we build this up. If you love a little bit more grunge or a little bit more texture or mixed media, Anita's got you covered. Here she took, these are some classics. These are some wonderful classic background Christmas papers we did for Ideology with the foiled stars and the trees. But I really love how she went in and just used, this is such a cool texture. I'm looking at this. This looks like it's actually gone through that fade stencil as well, because you can see that little texture on there. So it's almost like glaze first and then the stencil down and then textured over it. Because can you see the colors of all the different baubles and then just the different paste? Anita always just, I think she tries to stump me is what she does. She's like, I'm going to just mix and match some different mediums. But that to me is the power of a maker, is to take the elements that you want to use, but the colors are so cool. I love how she's got all of these rich earth tones with the metallic in the background. Oh, look at that. I also love the little sellotape. Can you see that? Little Ideology sellotape to highlight the top of that. That's really clever. I love the star up there. That little bit of color, and this has some sparkle paste, and then of course the sentiments embossed at the bottom. There you go. In the different metallic embossing powders. Isn't that fun? Crazy to see as the screen is filling up. Just crazy to see, honestly, how people approach things with a completely different color palette in mind. Case in point, Vicky. Vicky loves grunge. She loves rust. She loves patinas. She really likes to create a very organic, earthy finish. And how cool is this to see a steampunk version of this tree, where she used the paste, but there's also just some oxidation back there, some patina. but then she went in with some ideology hardware heads, machine heads, some of the bigger ones, and used those right over some of the baubles. Isn't that cool? I know. I love the grunge too. I see you guys are just saying like, it's cool. Because again, you can look at a stencil and you might look at it first and go, no way, I'm not there, Mr. Bubble Man. But it doesn't matter. It's about seeing the design and going, how can I take that design and make it more me? That's what the makers are all about here to inspire you. But isn't that cool? Because it does. It looks like it's metal. It looks like it's tooled metal, but so great. So wonderful. I love to build up the background. There we go. We'll build that up. This next one, we've got two cards that really focus like not only on a black background, but also some beautiful like metallic sheens to it. So Barbara created this one. Take a look at that background with Distress Spritz, where you really get that blend of that shine on there. And then she did some metallic embossing powder that's got a little bit of glitter in there, and then Christmas Magic going across. That's from Mr. Frostie. So even mixing up your typography is really, really nice. But seeing that tree in metallic with the metallic powders, it's beautiful. And that's the other thing about Spritz. Like you can look at it and it has a little subtle look to the background, but then when the light hits it, it just really, really comes to life, doesn't it? So beautiful. Beautiful card, Barbara. I love seeing really how makers, I think, approach things that maybe aren't even their initial style, and how they build different cards. Kathy created this one. So this is about taking the smaller tree, but putting it on a bigger card. So it doesn't necessarily mean big stencil, big card. You can mix and match whatever scale is going to work for your layout. And I love how Kathy did a big card. She did the tree. She's got those metallic baubles in there, and then even used those snowflakes from Mr. Frostie, where they are done in gold with a little Christmas magic. Isn't that beautiful? Again, I'm black. Crazy to see. Like now that I'm putting out all of these makes, I'm like, wow, a lot of makers did use black at Christmas, and I think that's so cool. It's dramatic and it's beautiful, isn't it? Like really, it's hard to kind of fit on screen, but you can see all the different styles utilizing. You can definitely tell that bauble tree is a favorite. So hopefully you see some inspiring ideas with a stencil. And if you haven't used a stencil with different pastes or different inks or different stamps, I think it's important that you play around and you try it. You try working with that. There you go. Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. So next we're going to get into stamp sets. And the first inspiration that I'm going to talk about is using the holiday whatnots. And like I said, a stamp set like this that has a lot of sentiments, you can use it for so many different things. And I think the makers really prove that in what they're sharing, right? So this first one, these are great ornaments that Natifa did. Take a look at just taking a wood slice, and you can pick these up really at any craft store, and stamping and embellishing. And there's so many, what I really love about this is that she did so many different kind of color combinations. So here you can just stamp, taking a permanent brown ink and stamp directly onto the wood. Kind of gives it a wood burn kind of look. Adorn it with some ribbon, some greenery, a little bit of jute. But these make not only ornaments, but also like package topper ideas, or maybe you want to loop it, I would say, around a bottle of wine, you know, because people have a lot of different gift ideas, but this really customizes it and personalizes it. You can still write a greeting on the back if you wanted to, a little sentiment. But then she just kind of switched up the different colors, and I do love that, where she went in and actually painted that wood grain right there, and then adding the white embossing. Isn't that great? I love that. So having that little red and white's really good, but then also the whole chalkboard. Just, again, painting just to create, because paint is going to give you a more opaque base, allowing you to stamp and emboss over the top of it. So I really love that chalkboard look of the black and white, and again with the greenery and the ribbon. So good idea. Good idea that you can just take your stamps, and yes, you can do embossing powder on wood or use your permanent inks to stamp. Just a great idea to work with these. Beautiful. It's always interesting to me when I see how makers approach different images to kind of make it their own. So Sharon created this card. I love the colors in the background. So here's where you can see that stencil and using different colors, that whole sparkly vibe. So just imagine this stencil in particular, although we're releasing it at Christmas, you can tell if this wasn't a Christmas sentiment, this background could be used year round. That's evident. But I love how she just did that merry and bright with the whatnot, embossed in white on black, and it just really pops and stands out over this background that has all of those different colors. Nice, right? All right, beautiful. And I'm going to bring some ornaments in. I just want to wait until I've got a little space before I plop those down. Little moss. There we go. A little cleanup. So Kubert created this series of cards. Take a look at that. So now it's almost like the kind of the wood slice, right? That wood slice idea, but actually using the stamp of the wood slice. I think that's so wonderful how makers kind of channeled an idea, but a little different. So that's another great thing about this wood slice stamp that is in Home for Christmas set, that you can kind of make that stamped wood slice, but put it on a card. So I love how Kubert created this little set. She stamped that, cut this out. I mean, this is pretty, you just do a little ziggity zaggity bit and go all the way around, but also how she's got just a little bit of texture in there. See, from that sparkle fade, doesn't always have to be a color. Layered on some ideology backdrops, some sewing, and just changing up the different colors of embossing can really mimic or match a color that you ink the background in. Those little holly jolly. So I just think that was a clever way to create cards, and a great card idea, especially if you look at that wood slice and you're like, what in the world am I going to do with that slice of wood, Holtz? Like, well, there you go. It could be a background, but you'll see, trust me, you'll see a lot of different ideas. All right. This beautiful card Emma created, an Emma size card is what I refer to her cards, because I don't think it has a number assigned to it, because she just makes a card as big as she wants to get whatever she wants in it. So through the years, I have coined the Emma card. That's what I call it. And I love that. I love that she continues to just do her size card. I love the background. So if you look at the background, although this looks like the most beautiful printed paper ever, these are the stamps from Forest Floor 2. That's why I wanted a set like that. I love a lot of imagery, but sometimes just having a large scale of botanical imagery really creates the most stunning background that you can sit down and start with a sheet of paper, stamp in Forest Floor, do some coloring, and then chop it up for your cards, and you'll have your own background paper. Does that make sense? Having these bigger elements, I love how she stamped and fussy cut these little holly leaves just to create little embellishments, tied this with some ribbon, and then she's got that Joy to the World embossed in gold, and then there's that holly in the background. So again, when you look at a stencil and you're like, oh, that pattern is like, what would I do with it? Well, you certainly wouldn't want a very big or bold or busy pattern in the back competing with all of this fabulous. No, you want something that's just going to mimic the theme, and that little mini holly stencil or a poinsettia or anything that you have that I refer to that has breathing room, right? Because something like this isn't breathing room. This is designed to be a background pattern, but that's why we need all varieties of different stencils to really complement different styles of makes. So I love that. I love seeing it. Then we've got some great gifty ideas. Anita created these. So fun, because let's face it, during the holiday season, maybe you're going to be making cards, maybe you're going to be making tags, maybe you're going to be making ornaments. But if you're doing any type of gifts, this is just a great idea and a use for the whatnots, because those little sentiments have personality, and they can, to me, I think they adapt to so many different styles. They adapt to like the woodsy wood slice. They adapt to the beauty of the botanical. They go perfect with like a whimsy color vibe. And here Anita created packaging. Look at that. Just stamp right on craft paper, do some little highlights with a gel pen just to make that pop. If you have any rosette dies, make some fun rosette dies. Here she used a little package from Home for Christmas to do the center, but look how she just stamped and did a little ribbon flag. Just cut this, just cut a strip of paper, cut that in, and again, go in with your pens. But that's just a fun, cute packaging idea. And then doing the little to and from. This is from the set last year. I think it was maybe Christmas cutouts or something like that, but it's the lino cut and it has the to and from in there. So I think I love, again, mixing and matching stamps that maybe you bought last year. Maybe those ones that you haven't used yet. Get them out. Give them a little test drive. Speaking of test drive, take a look at this car. Come on. How cute is that? So here you have a gift bag where you customize it, and maybe you're not even giving the gift. Maybe you're actually making gift bags in tissue for a friend who does baked goods, that doesn't do stamping. I think that's always a great thing to gift to our non-creative friends, where they actually have some handmade things that they could adorn their gifts as well. I love the big rosette, just taking that vault rosette and making a massive medallion. I love how Anita went in and just did the car with the tree, a little glossy accents on those windows. Isn't that cute? That car is just really great. Little star die cut in the background, but the coloring, isn't that so good? Love the little stars. There's a whatnot stamped and colored, and then same thing matching on the ribbon. And I think what's really cool about this idea, especially creating the rosettes, is you can see you can make different size rosettes depending on how many pieces of paper you put together. It just becomes bigger. But I love how she just creates that little ribbon flag to fit not only the scale of the rosette, but the sentiment that she wants to include, because the whatnots have all different sizes in there. So clever idea, right? Great packaging idea. All right, I'm gonna have to shuffle these around. I gotta make some room so I can set these up in the screen. I think that's important. Love these. Love all of these cards. So many great ideas. Okay, another little gifty idea. Kath made this. This is a gift idea with a gift. And Kath, I left it in here for the live. Although I'm not gonna lie, when I picked this up, I was tempted. She did have it wrapped in tissue. Did I unwrap it? Yes, I did. Did I wait till Christmas?
I was already tempted when
I did not.
It up when it got here.
Look at this. Holy moly, look at this block of chalk. Woo!
Dark chocolate, baby.
From Marks and Spencer's, look at that. Woo, thanks, Kath. Edible gifts. Whoop, whoop, that's good. So yes, I mean, I think having a gift bag and using the elements, but here's what's really great about all of these ideas that you need to be reminded of for the whatnot. Yes, it's just a set of sentiments, which means it allows you to use it with anything that you have, be that a die, be that another stamp set, even if you want to mix and match things and cut them apart. I love how Kath did just this gift bag using the wood slice, using the holly, that's again from Forest Floor 2. She used a little calendar back there, that's from Santa Visit, just so you have a little December. I love how she used that holly stencil, again, because you want something tiny and those little dots. And isn't that interesting that like when it's on here, it doesn't look as arrowy as it does on the stencil? That's the other thing to keep in mind, that the design, it's really how it looks after you apply a medium through it. But have a Merry Christmas cutting apart that sentiment. So if you have a sentiment and you're like, yeah, but I got a big old thing, chop it apart. Just go in. It allows you to just do some little wonky cuts and break it up. But how clever is that to have a gift bag using that idea? And I'll bring in some wood slices as well. I love inspiration. To me, when the makers share their inspiration for a stamp set, I do think that we are certainly the winners that benefit from the ideas, because you might just look at a stamp set and go, well, what would I ever do with that? That's not my jam. Well, maybe this isn't your jam either, but it still gives you a lot of ideas of how you can mix and match those images with what you have. So that is a whatnot. Let me clear this up. So many ideas. I absolutely love that, because inspiration, it's all about inspiration.
I'll take the chocolate.
Yeah, I gave it to you. There you go.
Dark chocolate for
Thanks.
lunch today.
That's good fun. All right. So we're going to kind of cruise right into talking about Forest Floor 2. Thanks, Mario. And just showcase really about the different images that we have. And like I said, there is a forest floor. One, it's got different images, but the whole idea about this, I'll say this collection, this little series of 2 stamp sets, is the scale of them. They are big, and big allows you to do a lot of different backgrounds. Typically I would pull that out, but I didn't this time. That's all right, because we're going to focus on this one. All right. First, we'll talk about tags, because although this is a large stamp set, I don't want you to think you always have to make large things. And I think Emma's card showed us that too, that it could be a background. Juliana created these tags. I love how she just took the tag, stamped one of the images, because the image, it's designed to actually just kind of fade off the edge. It's bigger than most standard things, so it can just bleed off the edge and look perfect. But I also love how she did a little bit of the sparkle paste. That's what gives it that little shine and that little glitter. That's a distressed sparkle paste through a stencil, a little embossed vellum, and then stitched around the edge. Did some dyed little crinkly ribbon and a little holiday bell from Ideology. But how beautiful for this series. And if you're not a tag maker, so to speak, if you're that person that just says, well, I don't know what to do with a tag. Remember, this tag could easily go on the front of a card. You can do a background and you can mount the tag as it is, as a tag, use some foam adhesive and dimensionalize a tag, and it will go perfect on a card. But I love the soft coloring that Juliana did. I think having that little vellum stripe with the embossing is it's beautiful. And the stitch details, magic. So beautiful for a big image. And that's, I think the importance of really understanding the potential of that, because if you do a lot of small stamps, you know, you got to do a lot of images. But here's a tag series that Stacy created. Look at this. If grunge is your jam, which you know is my jam, you can take your sprays. Sprays are really a very efficient way to do backgrounds. If you are into ink blending, that's great, but you know that if you were going to ink blend all of these, it would take some time. And this is where sprays are your friend. Be that a spray stain, an oxide spray, even distress spritz, because you can just give it a blast, hit it with a little water, let that color kind of wick around, and then you're good. Embrace the space, and each one is going to give you a different result, a different vibe. Then you can go in and stamp and still do your little spot coloring. But I love how Stacy went in and used the forest floor and then a little joy to the world. This is the vintage tag die. So when this not only die cuts the tag, but it also, I don't know if you can see, there you go, it debosses that outline. So it is an inkable die, but it also just gives that nice detail. And I also love the idea of just pairing it with a blank tag. So this way it is more of kind of like a card, if you will. It's going to open. So you can just ink a tag, and this is where you can write your sentiment or add a little message to it, and then still have the string, because now you've got a perfect bow, but there's your string to put onto the package. So a really great idea to double up your tags if you want to use them not only for the image, but also to kind of write the to and from without putting it across your wonderful artistry. Here you can see the holly. Again, look at that. Not fun. Both makers use that little with that a little bit of sparkle paste. If you haven't used a sparkle paste, it's really nice because it is a translucent paste that has little bits of glitter, but it's not saturated with glitter. So it doesn't really cover up anything that you put over the top. It just adds that little shiny sparkle. There's the pine cone, that little pine. Yeah, clever. With the string, the bows. And how fun, like Juliana did red, Stacy did. I'm telling you, I always say this. There's like a theory that makers must meet and go, what are you using? What color? Oh, okay, I'll do that. But I'm going to do mine this way. Okay, cool. Because it's so great that everyone just does something uniquely them, but they use a lot of the same products. I think it's so inspiring. The colors, see, just doing a little color. And this looks like this actually looks like it's spot colored with some distress spritz, because or maybe it's even mica stain, but it's something with a little shimmer, because these little berries, they have, see when the light hits it, they have that beautiful kind of juniper berry color. So she either, maybe use juniper berry mica stain or maybe a little spritz. I don't know, but that's another great thing, that if you have a spray and maybe you don't have an ink pad or a paint of that color, just spray some on, take a little paintbrush and still use it to color. That's great. Beautiful, beautiful tags. Love that. Then as we go into cards, I'm going to bring both of these out. So Zoe Scarpelli created these tags using, again, Forest Floor 2. And the benefit of this, of course, is that you can build your own arrangement. You can layer, you can mask, you can cut out, you can do anything you want on the cards. So I love how she took the images. She's got that big pine, that little bit of a berry on there, some texture. You can see a little snowfall on there. She did the pine cones, and then she did another pine cone and cut it out and layered over the top. And I love that because it gives dimension. I also love it because myself, if I was going to fussy cut this, I would probably have chopped it up into more pieces than I should have. So I like the idea of layering an image over an image, because then it just looks like a cluster of pine cones. Then you've got that little string. Very clever idea just to punch a hole there and create a little ribbon and slide it on, but then still tape it so it sits across your card perfectly. Little sewing, little background stamping. I mean, if you really look at the detail, that's using, looks like the telegram from Santa Visit, and then of course the calendar. I always feel, listen, when I'm doing these lives, it's like, I don't look at these makes until live, so it's like, I got to see what I can pick out. I love it. Hope I don't miss too much. Here you can see that great background. I love the idea of a paint lift, where you've got some white paint and then laying the stencil down and lifting through it, so you get the little reverse. But just a completely different color, again, with not only vintage tones, but using that black and white. This is using that little frame from the Vault Boutique die. That frame, I use that for the snowman. It's great to add a little element, because not only could it be a frame, but you could even put some ideology mirrored in there and you can have a reflection. There's a lot of things you can do, but I love how Zoe went in and even fussy cut all of these pieces. The pine cone. So cool. Beautiful, beautiful cards. When you see really the stamp, it's amazing. Zoe Hillman created this card. Look at this. I love the beauty of this, because this really celebrates the scale of the forest floor images. I mean, this is bigger than an A2, so you get the idea. This berry branch is massive. You can stamp part of it like Stacy did. You can do a little layering over there like Zoe Scarpelli did, or Zoe Hillman is like, I'm gonna focus on this image. And I love how she not only stamped that, but did the little pine. But take a look at that little detail. She took the stamp from Santa Visit, that little postage from the postcard, and just cut that and kind of used it just to cover up where all the images intersect. I think that's beautiful, and I love the coloring, I love the blending, the little splattering of the water. So there again, if you have a favorite image that you like, maybe it is a berry branch or pine cone. You don't have to use the entire forest floor. That's why I called it that. You can pick the images that you want to use and just highlight those. Now these cards Keisha created, and when I was setting it up, I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't notice it at first until I walked away and I was moving things around. I'm like, oh, that's great. And it's always interesting as a stamper that there's so many tricks that we learn through the years of whatever we do that we kind of forget them until we see them, and it's like, I forgot how powerful that is. So what Keisha created, what I'm talking about is if you look at the background, so for a minute, just try to like phase your eyes out of these beautiful color images. Just look at the background. Can you see that one's got the holly just embossed, and that's embossed in clear. So it's just clear ink, clear embossing powder. This one has the wood slice from Forest Floor. Again, clear and clear. And I just think that it adds such a sophistication, a beauty element to it, where it's an image that's in the background, but because it has a different texture, you notice it, but it doesn't overpower anything you put over the top of it. And so on this one where she did that little wood slice, she adds stamped the pine branches, did the little pine cones, and you can ink up different colors. So take a look how she just kind of inked the center of that brown and then did all the pine needles green. That's beautiful. And then in the air, there's a feeling of Christmas. And then on this one, she's got that holly and then the big berry branch. And so of course, when you're inking and stamping, you can ink it up with your different colors of mini ink pads. You can spray it, or you can stamp it and then just go in with a wet paintbrush and just do a little bit of touchy watercolor. But great cards. And I just think that really that embossed in clear. I remember when I first, because let's face it, when you first learn to stamp and you first learn to emboss, it's like you want to put embossing powder on everything and melt it. And this is one of those, I'm like, I need to just remember how powerful clear is. It's like a watermark, but it's a dimensional watermark. And the light hits it just perfect. So absolutely beautiful cards, beautiful card idea. Speaking of beautiful, Alberto, and what I really love about his coloring style is he's completely unpredictable in his palette, but it's always so pleasing to the eye. So really when I saw this card, I'm like, what set is this? Because this gives off the most magical fall vibes ever because of his color choosing. So using the holly stamp, so it's the holly leaf that you've seen, but what a great idea just to use it with fall colors because it's got the berries, and I think the leaf really does give off fall vibes. So keep that in mind. If you get this set and you are looking for fall ideas, and maybe you don't want to use a traditional, oak leaf or maple leaf because you want something that's got a little bit more, I don't know, style to it or some curves, I really love how he used that stamp for this palette. Even if he's not really going for fall, he's like, no, Tim, that's actually a Christmas card. I just like those colors. Again, great, but I love just seeing the different ideas and how he also went in and not only colored, but cut out a few of those leaves just to layer that over the top of it to create even more dimension. I mean, the coloring I see in the chat, it's magical, isn't it? So good, so beautiful. And then I've had so many different sets from vintage greetings from cards that really you can pair with any kind of sentiment that you have. It's beautiful. Gosh, that's a beauty. If we look at the color palette, I may give you like a second to guess who that is. I'm not going to wait. Vicky created this. Again, you look at that color palette and I always know it's distinctly her because she's like, I like all this, but I really love that grunge. And who doesn't say that you can't have a beautiful stamped card? Because when you first look at it, you're like, what is that? I can't even tell. But then if you were holding this in your hand really and the light hits it, you can tell everything. She's got a beautiful background on distressed black heavy stock. Looks to me like a little bit of mixative or alloy because there's a little metallic sheen on that, some splattering. But look at all that embossing. You can emboss in black on black or clear on black as a resist. And I love just the cut and details, because really the light is what makes this card dance. Because otherwise, you know, you really don't notice the details, but I'm telling you, in your hand, you really appreciate the shine and all of those elements. And this is another, to me, another important factor of cling red rubber that Stampers Anonymous does, because look at the lines in that wood slice, even embossed. Even embossed, you see all of those details where, you know, if you don't have a nice detailed stamp, everything kind of clumps together. Look at that sewing detail, it's just beautiful. Beautiful card. I mean, the inspiration that you see for a set is, well, it's quite magical. Rochelle created this card. So again, just using some different elements and coming in from different angles. It doesn't mean that you can only use an image once. The benefit of those larger scale images from Forest Floor 1 and 2 is that they can come in from different angles and you can create whatever stamp space that you want. Maybe it's going to be a focal point, maybe it's going to be the top of a card, or maybe you're just going to bring it from the side right over the top of it. And I love how Rochelle did this, did the stamping, overlapping. You don't always have to mask. You can just stamp right over the top of it. A little inky background, that wonderful sewing detail all the way around, and then taking one of the images, stamping it and cutting it out as an embellishment. And so many makers have done that, just cutting out these leaves and elements to create the card. I love really those little threads on there. A little stitching, have yourself a merry little Christmas, little ideology, tiny little tags, the 25 and the star, and some ribbon. Magical, isn't it? It's just, gosh, it's magical. Then we have this card that Paula created. Again, same idea, just picking different images and just bringing in what you like. And I love how Paula not only paired the Forest Floor with one of the vintage sentiments, because I think these were like, I don't know what they were called. They were like holiday, I have no idea. But I think I did like 4 or 5 sets throughout several years of these sentiments, and I called them all the same, but I don't remember the name. Somebody will. But I love how she took that vintage sentiment, much like Alberto chose a vintage sentiment, put this in, did the embossing, but take a look at that snowflake. So the snowflake from Mr. Frostie, when you see that, and you look at that, you're like, the style of it. Remember, the reason I did 3 sizes of snowflake of that, because to me, I thought it was a great snowflake that paired with so many different styles. It could be used with the whatnots, it could be used with Home for Christmas, it could be used with Santa Visit, it could also be used with Forest Floor 2, in addition to, of course, using it with Mr. Frostie. So just keep that in mind, because you might be like, why did he do 3? Well, 1, they're all different sizes, but 2, it's because it's a great fill in the blank, especially just having a nice, airy, wispy snowflake. But beautiful card, isn't it? Just, it is. I agree. I saw some comments of like, it has such a retro feel, and it does, because anytime that there are new images, and I always want to remind you guys of that, I'm always excited about seeing new stamp designs, new images come to life, but also don't forget what you have. I always say, don't forget what's in the toy box, because you might like one set, but you could probably pair that new set with so many things that you have, be that stamps, dies, or stickers. So that is Forest Floor 2. A lot of inspiration. When you look at botanicals, like you see it not only a little different, but you also see the scale and the importance of having some big images. Beautiful. There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Mario.
Sure.
All right. Moving on. Gosh, I love all this inspiration. It's like, keep it coming, keep it coming, keep it coming. All right. This next set of inspiration is using Home for Christmas. So of course this we're talking about all the different elements, and this set it's packed with a lot of different inspiration. I love these icons, and you'll see how the makers really celebrated the ideas of these. Of course, the first one, we'll talk about the car, because a lot of makers use the car, and surprisingly, even in different ways. So Joy created this card. We got that little thinger, little wobbler. Look at that little seesaw. I do, just like flick it around. You see it just flick it out of my hand. But also using some of those images as a background. The little globe, we've got the stocking, the bow, and in the air there's a feeling of Christmas. But I love how that's colored and just put over the top of it. So the car is really, it's a nice scale, because it does make a really great focal point. I do love that. I do love a wobbler. That's how it is. This next card Kathy created, and really take a look at this, because if you like to make bigger things, or maybe you're not a card maker, maybe you're doing December Daily, or you're doing scrapbook pages, you're doing junk journals, remember the images can really hold a place in all of that. So I love how Kathy created, although a large card, this could easily translate to, you know, an album page in December Daily, or a part of a scrapbook or a journal page. So I love the idea of the plaid, where that's also, see how she went and stamped. So even if you have pattern paper, remember, you can stamp on pattern paper. If the pattern really allows itself to take some additional images, depending on how busy it is. I love how she added some snowflakes to that, and then mimic that same look with the snowflakes embossed in white over black. And then take a look at the car. I love that little bit of snow, that little sparkle fade, little snow on the top of the branches of the tree. It's cute, right? It's a good stamp. It is cute. Different ways, different styles. Jen created this card. So this is a watercolor look. Maybe you don't want to go in color. Maybe you don't want to do, you know, Copics or pencils. You're like, I just want to use my inks. Well, you can certainly color with your inks. Just inking up an image with different water reactive inks, distress, or you can color with markers, pencils, spray it with water, stamp it, and now you've got a beautiful watercolor image. So I love how Jen just did the car with the tree, and then we've got Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. But then also in the back, if you kind of look here, I'll try to flatten this card out a little bit. You can see that there's some sentiment stamped in the background. There's some little bits of pine just done in the same inky color, and then with a piece of vellum over the top, it just diffuses that. So if you have a busy background or you're doing a lot of stamping, vellum is a great thing to diffuse the look, and then you can highlight that design. So yeah, it's a great effect. And then you can see that's distressed mica flakes down there. So good. So good. All right. So Juliana created this card. Again, I love the use of a lot of stamps. So creating a background where you're stamping, these are all the different elements from that set stamped in color. So you'll see like the pine cone, the holly. I mean, you really have to like dial in to see it. There's the stocking. But a lot of times you can take images, especially if they hold the same style, and create a background. And I love the layering of all the different ink colors, right? Remember that sometimes we get so focused on like, I've got a stamp in black and color, but yet you have probably 40 or 70 or 80 or more ink colors. But how often do you use them? How often do you get out the different shades of green that you have, or the different shades of red? This is a great reminder to just take smaller stamps and stamp a background, even if you're using sentiments over the top of it, and then choose an image that you want to highlight as the focal point. So I love how Juliana did that. And again, the vintage muted coloring, that's perfect. Also, I love the die. I love that little nested postage because it makes for a great frame. Beautiful. This next card, Zoe Scarpelli created. I love it's kind of the illusion of a snow globe, if you will, just using a circle die, kind of cutting out that circle window. Again, just doing images in the background, and there's that little car. And look, she even, see that? She even took thread and she stitched through it, that little tree tie, because the image does have some little tree ties on it. So I love how she went in with thread and added to that. There's a little pine cone, Believe in the Magic. Just a great vintage vibe, but also using a die to give the card a completely different look.
Zoe said that's her grandma's car that she had a little Fiat.
Really?
Yeah.
I loved it because I knew it wasn't a Volkswagen. It definitely, because it has just that longer hood.
That's what she said.
That's so cool. So I bet when
grandma's car.
Yeah, grandma's car when you saw it, Zoe. It's so cute. Rochelle created this. So here she went and created that same image, but using your embossing glazes. So do embossing powders. Now, if you want to emboss in this, you have options. You could stamp in clear after you stamp in a color, or if you wanted to fill in this area like Rochelle did. So see how there's embossing glaze inside the image? You can take an embossing pen and just color in there with an embossing pen, and then use your embossing glaze to color. So remember, embossing ink does come in pens, and that's what allows you to actually color an image with your embossing and go over the top of it. So, and I love how she incorporated the Ideology plaid sparkle. That's a sparkle plaid that we launched this year. I just think it adds such a great look because it's that printed sparkle. So it's not, so when you look at it, it doesn't even look glittery because it isn't. It's sparkly when the light hits it. But I love, again, pairing with a little Ideology special delivery. Oh, look, I just noticed that. See? Same idea. Just adding little, it's like little jute string. I love that. It adds a great detail. I'm totally inspired by that, you guys. I'll be adding string to my trees, that's for sure. Charming, right? So good. Now, the images, like I said, inspire makers to do completely different things. So Nico created this slimline card doing the car, but he didn't want the tree. And that's great. So I love how he went in with all different type of stamps of the boxes, or even drew some of them on there and created this whole stack. So, you know, this, I recognize this is kind of the package from the set, but I think these boxes, like, really, you can take an image or probably just draw them in, but this whole stacked package on top of the car, how fun is that? So this, not that I'm throwing out a creative challenge, but I think, like, to makers, think about that. Think about what else you could put on the car besides the tree. Because like I said, the tree is very easy to remove. You can either mask it or you can just cut it off. And you might say, oh, you know what? I've got all sorts of different things that I want to put on there. I have little candy boxes, or I want to stack baubles, or who knows? I just think that the whole idea is really, really fun and clever to look at a stamp that has the car and think of different ways that you might want to alter it. I love that. So much inspiration. Speaking of, Vicky created this card using just the package. So like I said, this set has so many different elements that you can highlight. And I love how Vicky took the pointy finger from Curiosity Shop, because here, remember I said it has the same style, that same kind of lino cut look, and just stamped and stamped and stacked all of those little boxes. Those are all cut out, dimensionalized on the card. She did a little inking, a little distressing. How cool is that? I love the vintage. See, brown paper packages tied up with string. There's nothing better than that. It's the most wonderful time of the year. So if you fall in love with an image, use it. Celebrate it. Put all sorts of different things on there. Maybe you're going to even do a little advent calendar, a countdown to Christmas. This little box would be great to stamp on a little box. Or maybe you're going to put this like on one of the Sizzix matchboxes and there's little gifts inside. There's a lot of clever ideas for the different types of images. And I just think, like, when you see this, it really lends itself to a lot of inspiration, different ways to use different things. All right. I'm going to kind of move these out, and I'll bring in some more images from the same set, but I'll build up because this is a lot of great cars and packages. So this next make, Stacy created. This is an etc. tag, but again, we're going back to not only Curiosity Shop, but also pairing it with Home for Christmas. This is the typewriter I was talking about. And for those that have this set, you know just what I'm talking about. It was really important, and this, again, a shout out to Paula, because when I was doing this set, I was telling her, like, I'm designing it. It's going to be just like Curiosity Shop. I love that design. These are the pieces that I want. I'm like, but it's like something's missing because I really want to be able to connect it. And she's like, why don't you do sentiments that fit the typewriter? And I was like, there you go. So that's why you'll see a lot of the sentiments, not all of them, right? Some of them from this set are really big and long, but down here, these four right here, I made sure were the same scale that would fit the typewriter. So you can take a little bit of paper, you can stamp any of those sentiments, and you can utilize this typewriter die if you love it. And also all the little greenery from Christmas time, the little holly or little pine or the pine cone, again, stylistically it looks the same, so you can embellish or add to that typewriter just to give it more of a festive feel. And then you can see that sparkle paste that Stacy did in the background. I just love this. And the whole idea about etc. tags, they are a thicker board, also from Stampers Anonymous. It just allows, like, if you are going to make something, you can stand it up on an easel. This could hang on the wall. This could go into a wreath. Just think the idea is really, really clever. So I always try to be mindful of how can you use maybe something new with something you already have. Okay. So of course it made me happy when Paula did these cards. She's like, there you go. Trust me, I'll celebrate that idea. Here you can see, again, taking the images, doing background stamping, just stamping the pine, stamping that sentiment, and then choosing a sentiment to go inside, because remember, this typewriter also has this paper die, or this paper stamp, that you can stamp that sheet of paper, but you don't always have to. You can use any kind of paper, but that's why it was important to also have that stamp, so you knew that it would fit perfectly. You can just do a little cut, or if you have the coordinating dies from Curiosity Shop, you'd be able to just cut out these little typewriters. But I love these cards that Paula did, because again, it's utilizing the images from the set in many, many different ways. Isn't that cute? So clever. And even if you didn't want to use the sentiment, right? Maybe you're like, hey, you know what? I'm not buying anything. Great. But if you have this stamp, now you're getting inspiration of maybe how you can utilize it for Christmas, because maybe you have other sentiments that you could stamp, or maybe you want to do some handwriting in there. But a typewriter is really great for all different seasons as we're going through it. All right. We doing all right, Mario?
Doing great.
Doing good? Doing good.
You're finding all kinds of little surprises.
I'm telling you, I look at this set, I love it.
The people with that typewriter, they just can't, like, someone said, I'm showing my age because I actually know that typewriter.
Hey,
I recognize that typewriter.
I have a lot of these typewriters around the house. They're sitting on the floor because they're incredibly heavy, but they're good props too. All right. This next little set, Kath created. I love the idea of little cards and envelopes where she utilized stamps. This is a background stamp of ticking we did, I think, last year. A little label stamp, and she stamped the baubles. So all of these little envelopes, isn't that charming? So you remember just using a little front of the car. So you can stamp your envelopes. Maybe you're buying some little pre-made envelopes or tags that you can embellish, but I love how she did this adorable little series of cards. Take a look at the ink colors, the little speckly splattering of white, the baubles, 'tis the season, little embossing for some shine. But these stamps, remember, it doesn't have to fit. Any image can come in from any side, especially if it's a bigger image like this car. I love Hello December, but see that snowfall? That is just, these are so cute. I love the colors too. It's very like evergreen bough, little festive berries. Look at that. Little lumberjack. It's the most wonderful time of the year. So this is just showing, like, in this set, there are all these, I call these little fill in the blankers. And I know, like, for Stampers Anonymous, I really pack in, if there's room, I'm going to try to squeeze in an image. But to me, it's like, sometimes I want to focus on an image and sometimes I just want to use it for accents. So having the little pine branch and pine cone allows you to do what we showed with Forest Floor too, but just on a smaller scale where you've got those little stamps and then you can highlight a sentiment on there. So I think that's a really cute idea for using stamps in a different way. Maybe something a little smaller. All right. Now, if you take a look at these, oh my gosh, Zoe Hillman created these, and you know, vintage, I love vintage, Zoe loves vintage, grunge is our friend, brown is our friend. So I'm going to bring in, she did a whole series, but I just want to bring in one at a time just to show you. This is where you can create a look based on your color preference. I love that she also included the Ideology Cellotape. So if you have the Cellotape, that wonderful stain tape, it's a great set to use it with. But in the background, she's got some stamped music in brown, and then she's got the sentiment stamped in black, but then the image is not only stamped, but it's fussy cut and layered over the top, and then also stamped on the background. So if you look, the image is stamped directly on the card, because that's where you're getting the little shadow that she did, but then stamped it on a second piece, did her coloring, cut it, and then layered it. And it just, I think, creates a whole different illusion because you get that drop shadow. But I also love just the vintage look, and especially on craft. I love craft paper. Zoe created this one as well. Again, typewriter, little holly, little touch of glossy accents on there, the Hello December, and just those little bits coming out. It makes the typewriter more festive. Little cellotape on the layers. I love the whole look of all of the collections. Take a look at this card. In the air, there's a feeling of Christmas. Love the baubles. And I also like that, you know, if you're stamping this, because remember, this stamp has two. They're on one, but Zoe clearly proves that it's easy to go in and just cut around this one and make a single bauble on a bow. So just imagine that one's gone. See that? The orientation, perfect. It works with the two baubles or just one if you want a single ornament. So remember that. Remember that little pad of paper and pen? Single ornament, cut off. Yeah, it's just the ideas that you remember about using it. And I really love how she also took that pine branch and just kind of stamped it across, so these are hanging off of the pine branch. Really cute. But this one, I literally was like, yes, I love this. So if you saw the Stamptember Live yesterday, you know that I talked about these Sizzix dimensional domes that I did. When I was designing this stamp set, I wanted to make sure that this little snow globe fit perfect with those dimensional domes as well. So if you have any of those circle dies, you can stamp the snow globe. When you put the die in, it's actually slightly smaller, so you still get that little outline, and you can put the globe on there. The other benefit is you can either keep the cabin scene that's there, or if you didn't want it, remember that this stamp and that circle die means you have a snow globe. So you could put anything underneath it. You can put a little Ideology woodland tree. You could do a photo. You can do anything. But if you didn't know what to put inside, you just layer that image that you've essentially die cut out of it, which is what Zoe did. So I love there's a little shakety shake. I'll try to I'll kind of tap it down. There's little snow at the bottom. Can you see it down there? So it does. It makes like a great little shaker, a little snow globe. I also love how she used a postage die. How fitting is that? Taking a little sellotape, a little pine cone, and the pine to layer that, and 'tis the season to be jolly. So if you're really looking for a charming little snow globe just for the globe, that's what I was telling you at the beginning. Sometimes it's just going to be like a specific image that you like. Well, that's really the benefit of that particular image, because you not only have a background, but you have just a great little base for a snow globe. Cute cards, right? So many different ideas for this stamp set, Home for Christmas Time. And of course, pairing it with Curiosity Shop, because you're like, where's all the typewriter coming from? Well, that's what it is. So I love it. I do. Well, but I love little inspiration. Like that little thing is just so cute. It's like, look at that little bit of rock candy.
Go ahead, good. You know you want to.
Okay. Okay, I do. I like it. You know me. All right. Let me hand you these. Thanks, Mario. Okay. Next up, we can tell it's a favorite because I have 2 buckets of makes for Mr. Frostie. So I always say that because really the makers, they get the whole release and they only have to make a certain number of cards. Many makers, thank you, made more than they needed to. But it's always interesting when the makes come in and I'm setting up, I'm like, okay, clearly this was a favorite, because they're not assigned a set. They get to do whatever they want. And I love that we get a little variety. It always just seems to work out great. But Mr. Frostie, you're going to see from the makes that a lot of these elements come together to make some really charming scenes with this wonderful snowman. All right. So the first one, we'll bring this in. Joy again. How do I, oh, see, look, I got that little thinger stuck. Little wobbler, but also a wobbler and a shakety shake. So this is like, this is a double whammy. This is like, I know, this is just going to be like OCD overload for me. I'm not going to, and if it lit up, please.
I gotta see this.
Oh my gosh. See, it's because now, but see, now when you shake it wobbles. It's like a shake, wobble, and roll. Here you can see that she created the shaker background. I love that tree branch. So again, the tree branch, it is weird. I'm not going to, I love that it just kind of floats there, because you can position it and angle it and it's just supposed to fade out into the background. There's a snowflake there, and there of course is that little Mr. Frostie that does a little shake, wobble, and roll. There you go. This card Jen created, again, kind of that watercolor, but take a look at this. I mean, we've seen Kath create these clear cards as well. I love that Jen did this acetate front card, and this is using the Distress Snowfall Grit Paste, because when it dries, it actually dries icy. So this is using the little splatter stencil. I think that's what it's called. I think it's called splatter or speckles, but it's that one stencil. I talk about it for years. It's my favorite because it's got little random bits. I love how she took that sentiment, kind of tore the strip of paper and put that on the front. And then inside, again, a little watercolor stamping of Mr. Frostie. Adding a little bit of glitter right there. Isn't that charming? Beautiful winter vibe, but yeah, having him under that snow is great, because if it stands up, you're kind of looking through a little snowy window outside, and the snowman is in the meadow. In the meadow, we can build a snowman. Cute. Very cute. I love that. All right. This next card Kubert did, this is magical. I do love this background. I love how it's really wintry and that just kind of those white striations. It's beautiful. The colors and the snow. I love how Kubert not only stamped it, but cut and layered different parts and pieces of him, where you stamp and she's got that top hat layer, that nose, she's got the scarf. But again, if you start by stamping on your base layer, which is what she did, can you see that from the side? Sorry, Kubert, I'm showing you tricks here. But stamping that base image, now you've got the arms that really create a different dimension, and it just allows you to kind of build up. So you've got the arms, then you've got the body that's a layer, then you've got the scarf that's a layer, the nose, and the top hat. And then she just did a little bit of snowfall grit paste to build up that bottom, little snowy bit, and then Christmas magic. It is magical, isn't it? I love all the ideas. So many ideas, and so many different colors as well. Cassie created this, again, taking that snowman and, you know, snowman, little vintage vibe. But here, oh, hold on a second. That is clever. For a second, I was going to say it was from another set. And then I realized, no. Cassie created this. This is the tree branch. This is the same stamp, but she stamped it from the bottom coming up and she made a tree. That is so clever. I love that idea of of taking that branch that's coming in, and now you've got a perfect little standing tree. I'd like to say I designed it that way, but I didn't. But I love this. I love the idea. That's why the makers inspire me as well. I love how she stamped and colored that. So this is cut out. So you've got just a little bit of a layer. And all of that wonderful grungy, watercolory background with the splatters. Again, jot that down. Branch into tree if stamped at bottom. Yeah, that's very cool. I love that, Cassie. Great ideas. It's all about the inspiration. All right, this next card Rochelle created, and you know, there's so many different mediums when it comes to working for the season, and this is a great opportunity as a maker to maybe get out the things that if you're in a creative rut, get out the products you haven't worked with much. Okay, I love that Rochelle did an alcohol ink background, because that's what this is. So this beautiful flowy background is alcohol ink on, it looks like Yupo. It looks actually translucent Yupo, because I can see it's see-through. Because remember, Yupo comes not only in stark white, but there is a translucent Yupo. It's thicker than vellum, but it creates this beautiful frosty look. And then she did alcohol lift ink when she stamped the snowflakes. So that's what made them, well, translucent. She put this on some sparkly cardstock. So now when the light hits it, that's what makes these snowflakes actually kind of fade in and out. It's beautiful. Now you could do this directly on white Yupo as well, but I love the idea of lifting for the snowflakes, because it does. It has white snowflakes on your background. I also love this. This is so cute, Rochelle, where she took a little bit of fabric, a little bit of Holidays Past from Eclectic Elements, and if you've got little scraps of fabric, use them. That is so cute, just to tie that little fabric scarf. Come on. Ooh, even on the hat. Look at that. She cut a little bit of fabric and put a matching fabric band on the top hat. Genius. I love it. Now that fussy cut, that's some serious work. If I did this, he'd be missing some digits. I'd probably have to just go out and get real sticks and stick them in, because it would be gone if I tried to cut that. But I love it. I love the idea. Oh, little ideology snowflakes. See, there's that snowflake adornment. I was sad they didn't come back, but they're so sparkly, and let it snow. But this really, it's a great combination of things. Maybe you have alcohol ink background. Maybe you have fabric scraps. Maybe you have some charms. These are the ideas of pulling them all together, but that has a good tactile feel. So cute. All right, now you're going to start seeing, well, a different perspective. Keisha created this, and this is what I was saying about the set of Mr. Frostie. When I saw this artist's work, I just fell in love with both. I fell in love with kind of the look of this snowman, but then the drawing of this bigger head and the way the top hat was. It was a different orientation in the face. I'm like, I love it. I've got to do both, and I've got to do this big, because he's the star of the show. And of course, he could be a she. You can add little flowers. You can do whatever you want to the snow people if you want. But I love the idea that, you know, they have a little bit more personality. Okay, I'm going to share a secret. I will. I'm going to share it, because I told Paula this, because when I was talking about this imagery, she's like, oh, it's okay. And I go, now watch. Now, here's the thing, and I'm not judging anyone. So put the gavel down, Judge Judy. I'm not judging anyone's artwork. But to me, this snowman had a mouth. It did. It had the little coal pebbles for a mouth. And I said to Paul, I'm like, watch this. And I erased the mouth. And she's like, how did that just turn from like a snowman into this charming, like it made my heart feel good? And I said, to me, if something doesn't have a mouth, and that's for, it could be Halloween, Christmas, it doesn't matter. I just think it has a little bit more personality, because you don't know the expression. You see what I mean? Like if it has a smile, it's happy. If it has just a dot, it's pensive. If it's got a little frown, it's sad. But if it has nothing, it could be whatever. It could be the happiest. It could be starstruck. It could be magical. It just allows, I think, the recipient or the creative to decide the personality for it. So that's just what I did. That is the truth. I took off the mouth of the image, because I thought that it created a little bit more personality. But I love this card that Keisha did. I love the colors. I love the background, that little bit of sparkly. I love the droplets that are in there, and really just the stamped snowflake, and just the introduction of things, be that a little bit of glaze on the scarf or a little bit of metallic, whether you're using alloys or foundry wax. It's fun. But yeah, see, I'm giving away all my secrets. It's not a secret. It's just,
the gavel down, Judge Judy.
Well, it's just something, because everyone's like, oh, well, you've done snowman with mouths. I have, but on this particular one, it's like I didn't want it to have an expression. I wanted the maker to actually choose the expression when they were creating. So this card Juliana created. again, you can see that it gives you total flexibility on how you want to create the scene. I love the coloring, the fussy cut of that, the embossed snowflakes on the background, the little inking through that stencil. I mean, you've seen this design used on so many cards. Sometimes it's paste, sometimes it's ink, but it's those little bits in there that are really, really nice. And then, of course, we've got that walking in a winter wonderland and the sewing that goes around the edge. So cute, right? So many different ideas. Sharon created this card. I love the spritz background. You know I love distress spritz, and I really hope that if you guys did get them, you've used them, because the more you use them, the more you see how different they are from other inky products that you could have. Because it doesn't have ink, like this card that Sharon did, she masked off the background, because this is all one flat layer. It looks very dimensional, but she masked this off. This stayed white, and then she masked off the snowman. But now when the light hits it, can you see all those fabulous colors of spritz? You've got some gold, some pink, some blue, and I think that's really nice because it just gives just a subtle bit of sparkle to the background. There are the snowflakes that are stamped, and then of course we have the snowman in there. So just because he's got the tree and the elements, you create your own scene. Christmas magic right there. So that's beautiful, Sharon. Then we have this card. Alberto created this card. Look at that coloring. Again, beautiful winter. See the blues. There's so many different blue inks that honestly I don't use a lot of blue throughout the year, but when it's wintertime, you can get out the blues and purples and pinks and like Victorian velvets. You can also throw in a little bit of brown. But I love how Alberto just created kind of this dimensional scene where he's gazing off into the snowy night. I also love this. Look at that. That's cool. I'm actually looking. I had to do a double take. I'm like, is that just one line? No, I did two lines, but look at how he stamped it kind of on the curve. So if you want, I'm not saying he did this, but it wouldn't surprise me. Many makers do. Remember, you could still cut your stamp across, or you can mask it. But if you cut it, it would allow you to bend this, because if you have a thinner line and you're going to put this on a block, you can actually bend your stamp when you put it on your block and create that little curve. I can't imagine doing the bend with this, but no, see, it wouldn't. It might. Yeah, you might be able to just bend this, but you could also easily cut it and bend it. But that's another great thing if you have some single lines of text and you want to give it a little bit of dimension. So I like that. But also I kind of think he maybe kept them together because maybe he masked it. I'm not sure, but I love the idea. I love the coloring, the shading, and of course the little snowfall. Beautiful winter scene. We're building up our little Frostie background. It's so good. All right. Now this one, this made me chuckle. It made me do a double take, but it made me chuckle. Nico did this one. Super clever. Can you guys see? You see what's happening here? He used both of the images from the stamp set. He's got the body of the snowman, and he put the head on the top. I love the idea of combining these two because it gives it such a whimsical look. It's really, really clever. So we did some masking, but it's really great to have the head of this big snowman on the body of that with the arms. It's incredibly clever. Really is. I can't say that I ever even envisioned that, but when I saw it, I'm like, that's just cute because his head is as big as his body. It's actually a little bit bigger, and that's just funny. So think about that. If you're like, oh, I really love his face, but I wish he had a body. Well, there you go. There it is. Very cute. Super clever, Nico. Love the ideas and inspiration. So that's kind of, we're going to bring in more because I've got many rounds of Mr. Frostie. We're going to keep going. And I love that. I do love that really when you see a stamp, especially something like a snowman, thanks Mario, that you think like, how different could he be? Well, he could be very different. All right. I got a whole, wow, cool. Zoe Scarpelli created these. I love this double card series. Love the vintage look. So again, creating the scene. Oh, she did a tree too. That's so cool. Bringing that in and creating that tall tree, doing some little grungy watercolor, a little bit of fabric under there. And I think, again, when you do snowman, it could have that beautiful blue, wintry, crispy vibe, or it can still be vintage and distressed. But I love that watercolor. I do love a messy watercoloring. I also love, oh, this is cute. Hold on a second. That is cute. All right, so this card, love the background, again, of that sparkle fade. You can see it's got a little bit of snowfall paste in there. I love the colors as well. But look at this. She went in and like cut out the background because there's even some little ziggity zaggity stitching right here. But see how she cut the paper and kind of folded it over? You see that? So it's like he's popping it. That's why I wanted to look inside. What was I going to see? Like a body, the rest of his body in there? That would be funny. But I love that he's like popping his head through the card and she has this paper curled. That's so clever. That's really cute. I mean, just think about that line. You put it in a picture frame where you would just expect, and you maybe glue some pom-poms on the back or something. I don't know. Probably not. But I love the idea of really that snowman head popping out of the card. Cute. Clever idea. See? Because he doesn't have a mouth. You don't know what he's thinking. That's just funny. But he's like, here I am. Here I am. All right. Barbara created these two. I love just kind of seeing the different pairings of imagery. So you can see on the background, these big pine branches. This is from Forest Floor 2. I like that. I love seeing, of course, this oh, look at that. First, I just thought it was the garland because these are the bells from Vault Christmas, the holiday classic. But look at the back. Those are the wood slices. So see how she kind of did the wood slice as the top and then used just those little die cut pieces just to create that garland. That's cute. So he's like in a little curtain of wood. Brilliant. And then we've got winter wishes and of course our little snowman die cut with the snowflakes all around. That's clever. Clever idea. Barbara also created this card. I love that he's just kind of sitting on this branch here. She's got just some wonderful little sparkles back there, snowflakes, the colors. Yeah, see? I know. I'm watching the chat and I do agree when we showed it the first time. It is a favorite. I agree because there's no denying that the images is just, I can't believe it took me all these years to find a snowman stamp, but I'm certainly glad that I did because I think that it's the perfect design. It makes my heart melt, pun intended. All right. Now, if you look at these, there's so much inspiration. It is. I just look at them like it just makes me feel happy on the inside. So Stacy created these. This is using the Sizzix pillow box die. I love these pillow boxes. I love that it's inked and stamped and layered. It's just, oh, all of these colors. Vintage, that wonderful ribbon. I love the snowflakes. I love the vintage button. Now, it has stuff. I'm just, well, you know me. I'm 5. Oh, did not disappoint. Oh, come on. How cute is that? So not only, I mean, okay, get the words out, Holtz. She just took circle dies. I say just, but it's just taking a shape die. And again, it's that vintage label. And look at how she stamped. So it's kind of the same orientation of just the head, but she used the smaller one. Just as charming. And created these little gift tags. And then put the gift tags in a stamped pillow box with all the ribbons and the strings. What a great gift. Again, I can't encourage you guys enough that if you have friends, neighbors, coworkers, any post office, FedEx, anyone that like loves gift giving, but they're not a creative, and maybe you've had conversation with like, what do you do? Do you make, what do you do with all this stuff? This is a great gift to give them. Or you're like, hey, I made you a set of tags that you can add on your gifts. I think that people would appreciate it, I think, more than you know, because it's absolutely charming just to sit down and see those images and all the little strings. Like these could be ornaments. So you could, do them on paper or get ceramic or wood slices. Just great inspiration. But I love the vintage nod that Stacy always does. The vintage button on there, like that, just, that's her thing, the little shabby touch. All right, let's bring these out. My gosh, this is a lot. I love it. All right, is this another one? Oh my gosh, I was trying to find, I'm over here pulling things out of like, to see Kath's name, and I'm like, Kath.
She's a factory.
I'm telling you, my gosh. All right, so this is a whole little set made by Kath of, again, gift tags. So I love how she used, so you can use chipboard, you can use craft heavy stock, which really feels like chipboard, but I love how she did that snowman. Look at that, a little bit. This is mummy cloth. So remember, if you got that mummy cloth from Ideology Halloween, you can color it any color, and it has this wonderful gauzy look. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty because it has that little frayed, tattered, translucent look. But she made little tags. You can stamp it. Oh, that's cute. Look at that little eyelet right there. Snowflake. Watercolor, white embossing. Just stamped and colored on the bottom of that. Cute set of tags. My gosh. And then there was this card and envelope. That's why I was like, oh, it's this, but Kath also did this. I love the big scene. So if you want to create and you want to get out all of your stamps, it was important to me that as I was working, that these were in scale, that you can add a lot of images to make whatever size card you wanted, or again, journal, scrapbook, anything. So here she just created the scene. She's got the snowman off to the side, that tree just kind of fading in, stamped it again, just to get another little branch down here at the bottom. She's got the snowflakes stamped in different colors, which I like that, how they fade in and fade out. Little splattering on the background, and then in the meadow we can build a snowman. Cute. The sentiment to me, I mean, it was just the right font for this set because it did give it such a soft, beautiful, wintry feel. So that's another round of Mr. Frostie, and we are not done. We have more inspiration for this stamp set. I love seeing all the different looks and personalities, thanks Mario, of this set. All right. This next grouping, Zoe Hillman created. Again, taking the image and make your cards, get out your dies. So here's just a coin envelope. So this is from the Sizzix Chapter 3 that we did. This is from Collector. I love how Zoe just went in and die cut this. This is what I was saying about Distress Craft Heavy Stock. It's a very heavyweight craft paper, but she just stamped directly on there. Do coloring, maybe using distress paints or doing watercolor pencils, whatever medium you want to work in. And I love how she just has that layered. It's so bright. You could even do some painting with gesso, which makes it super, super bright. Double stamping. So this is one of the things that's important, and I'm sure Zoe's going to share on her blog about this. But I've loved this technique when I did this with distress paint, where you stamp the image, you do some coloring, and then you stamp it again to bring back all of your detail when using an opaque medium. But this really, it's so impactful, right? I mean, they look dimensional. They look like they're cut out, but I assure you, they're all part of that same background. But it's just the painting and layering that Zoe did. It's really, really nice because they pop right out of that background. I love this card as well. A little bit of sparkle. Who is that with a sparkle? See? This just proves that even the grungiest of grunge loves a little craft stock sparkle because it adds a little touch of nostalgia. Some sellotape there, the snowflakes. In the middle, we can build a snowman. But just getting out a stamp set, and this is really about getting it out and having fun. Whether you're doing envelopes or tags or cards, just stamp and play. So much inspiration. I love it. All right. We got some big ones. These are some big cards using Mr. Frostie. Kathy created this. Love the collage on this because again, we're talking a big card. We've got purple cardstock, but I love this black and white. So many makers did black and white, and I don't know, that could be my jam. Hold on. This is a shakety shake. Oh yeah, you see it? So I was so caught up in this. Here's a tag, die cut, but then you can see that Kathy, she did the tag, stamped, did the coloring. Oh, I love that little ribbon. Oh, it's like hanging a snowflake that he's holding on to. Do you guys see that? Hold on, let me get the shakety shake out of the way. There you go. So we've got the branch, you've got that little ribbon, and he's holding on to the snowflake, and then it's like sitting right there in his little hand. I love the colors. You can see on here that she stitched that transparency right over the tag, and then it has mica in there, so it's a little shakety shake. So it's a little tag pocket. I love the use of the tickets. That's from Santa Visit. Little 25, that's from Sign Painter. There's that little December, Believe in the Magic. So this is about taking elements and color and cutting and layering and stamping. That's beautiful. So fun. Kathy also created this one. Wow, just the makers just made so many things. And look at this. There's so much magic here. We've got Mr. Frostie, that wonderful portrait right there. But look at how well he pairs with the scale of the elements from Forest Floor 2. Wow, love that. So you can see that that's the wood slice from Forest Floor 2, but these are all, oh my gosh, these are all fussy cut. I mean, but I'll admit, like once you get into fussy cutting, you can kind of zone out and create that. But I love how Kathy just made this wonderful botanical winter arrangement. And I really love how that wood slice is kind of a backdrop for that, because it really does make him stand out, the contrast against the background. There's a little snowflakes down there, a little bit of mica. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, really, these cards, this is the thing also, if you like to make big cards, well, really any size card that you want, and you find a frame, it's also great to gift someone a card and give them the frame to pop the card in. And this way, not only are they getting the card, but then they have a piece of holiday artwork for their office or wherever they want to decorate. I just think that is pretty magical. It's beautiful. All right. Then we have this panel, absolutely magical, from Emma. This is just using a board. So you can use a piece of MDF board, you can use etc. panels, you can use any kind of foundation and you can build on it. So this is kind of what I was saying is like, you can make a card, but you can also just put it on something more solid and then it becomes a piece of art. They can hang it on the wall if you have a clip like this. These are the Ideology vintage clips. These have been retired, but I know they're a favorite because you can clip it on something and then it allows you just to hang that onto the wall. But it's a great way to incorporate your stamped work and gift them your stamped artwork. But I love how Emma created the scene. Oh, look, there's a little moon mask on the background. Isn't that pretty? See that subtle moon? I love how she used the moon mask. And then she's got the tree. I mean, all the little detail of that little bit of snowy on the branches, a little white pen, some texture paste, some little sparkly bits. I love that. The little star. There it is. And then she's got Mr. Frostie, some little mica. But look at this. I love these. These are the little packages from Santa Visit that she stamped and piled up. It does. The style goes really, really well with the image. A little bit of a Sizzix greenery just to add to the pile. Some wonderful little tinsel. And that, whoa, this is sewn with metallic thread. This is fancy right there. Look at that. I love all that little bit of, just that little bit of sparkle in that metallic thread going all the way around. And then that little minty edge with a little tape. Oh, even that stitched on the edge. So much detail. But isn't that, it's just magical. It's so charming to see how the makers, and you've seen so many rounds of this stamp set, but you can truly see the potential of what to do with these images for the set of Mr. Frostie. At least I hope you did. All right. So we got one more set, one more round of inspiration to go through. Let me gather these up. Beautiful. Thanks, Mario. A lot of inspiration. So much. I know, it's great.
I tell you, Mr. Frostie, I think he's
just has a lot of personality, huh?
People just love him.
So good.
And they loved hearing the whole snowman.
Well, it's the truth.
I know.
Listen, next time you have something and you're like, if you have an image, just try taking it off the mouth. See if you like it any better. So here's a little tag bundle that Zoe Scarpelli created. And I love this idea as well. I mean, this could certainly be a make because it is a little countdown. I love how she put numbers on the back. So this could be a countdown tag where maybe you're doing a countdown to Christmas. So I love that idea. But I also love the idea of just really collecting tags on a ring. So if you are making right now and you're just creating things and maybe they're doing different backgrounds or tags, just put them on some type of ring so you can flip through them and see. But she made this cute little book. I love that she has We'll Leave North Pole and just kind of edited out the rest of it just to fit the size of tag that she was doing. She's got Santa Claus sign there. Then she's got Santa on there. Really good. Beautiful. What's that?
Oh, I was just saying, who was that?
This is Zoe. Isn't this Zoe
I
Scarpelli?
think it might be Barbara.
Is it?
Maybe.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, Barbara.
My bad. Barbara Yaya. Thanks, Mario.
Sure.
He's coming over because, he unpacks them all, so he's got it. It's hidden there. Barbara Yaya. My mistake. So I love, again, the idea of just taking elements and creating tags. I got to say, in my defense, Zoe loves to make tags, but no excuse. Sorry, Barbara. But I love how this is embossed. This is kind of in a weathered white embossing directly on craft. I love the stamped images just done in red and black. It's just really cute. And then the back, just taking some pattern papers. These are older Ideology pattern papers. But see the simplicity of just taking that image and creating the background. So I see just having that weathered white stamp and embossing, that little bit of sparkle on there. So you don't even need to do the coloring, and pairing the images, it does give you a great little countdown. I love the numbers too. I mean, that's clever. See, she's got the little die cut number on both sides. That little snow globe. See the detail of those? Red rubber gives you all the details. Love the little stenciling and little stars. Just cute, cute details. But all of these, like if you weren't going to do the numbers, you weren't going to do the countdown, this is a way that you can sit down with a stack of tags, do some stamping, embossing, do some inking, and every single one of these could be a card topper. Every single one of these could just be something that you put on a card base and off you go. So I think seeing the power of an image just using embossing powder is also really impactful. There's that tree, part of that tree that you're going to see in this set. I love it. I love the snowflakes again from Mr. Frostie, the little baubles. Yeah, it's cute. And so many of these makers, by the way, they do a lot of tutorials. Many of them do blogs, but I think one of the most important things that you need to be reminded of is to follow these makers on their social media platforms. Instagram specifically, but a lot of them have YouTube channels, but not many of them. But on Instagram, so many makers now, and I really appreciate that. You know, they don't have time to do tutorials for every make that they do for every brand, because a lot of them make for other brands. But what I'm finding they're doing a lot of when they're posting on Instagram is giving a little bit more insight on what they did. So they might not be doing a tutorial, but they might say, oh, I created this and I embossed with this, or I did an inky background with this. So I think that, you know, if you follow them on Instagram and you look at their makes, or you click the links that we put on the blog after the live, it really might give you a little bit more insight to what they did and how they created it, because it really is about inspiration. They're not required to do tutorials at all, but I'm so grateful when they share just a little bit of insight or some of the products they make. And it's a way that you can also ask them questions about what they make. You know, a lot of times people will email us and like, can you tell me what Paula made on her? And I'm like, no, but I'm sure Paula could. So it is important that you connect with the maker that makes to ask any questions. So great tag booklet, Barbara. All right. This next card, Juliana created, and I mean, she was clearly in the collage stamping vibe, and I couldn't love it more. It's amazing. It makes me want to do all the smudge stamping again. And that's where you're stamping in a color of ink, and you take a clean blending tool and you create that little smudgy background. But I just love the look of this. So there we go. I'm going to try to hold it there. Can you see the layers? So it's like the postage stamp, you've got postcard, you've got North Pole, so many different elements. And this is using some older sets as well. I've done a lot of great holiday postage sets, so mixing and matching is great. And that became the background for this guy. I think the thing to remember about this stamp set, CMS 500, is that there is a lot of imagery that can be used, but there is certainly a focal point when it comes to what to utilize this for. So I think, you know, having this kind of, I think, variety of imagery to play with, you're going to see the inspiration for Santa Visit for this set. But I love that card, Juliana. So fun, so festive. Jen created this card, a sparkly little inky background, and then she's got Santa colored cut out, but she's got little glitter. Can you see that little bit of glitter on the package? There's that little metallic. There's the ticket. There's some sparkly back there. And another benefit of following these makers on social is many of you want to see this image like this, freeze frame. Well, I'm not a freeze framer. I'm a video and I like to move and show you the details. So if you ever want to get a steady glimpse of it, they'll always post it on their social media as well. But it's a great card, Jen. I also love just seeing the sentiment die cut and layered. And that, of course, is from Home for Christmas. This next card, Kubert created. This is where we can talk about the different elements, because as I mentioned, this Santa, he's just so jolly. He's so happy. He's not upset that he's got all these packages to deliver. See, he loves deadlines. He does, and his deadline's much tighter than most of us. But I love the fact that this image pairs so well with this tree. I love the idea of that little feather tree, but you see that if you stamp it in the background and you put them over the top, whether you mask or whether you die cut, it really has that perfect proportion scale of having that wonderful holiday tree in the background. Then we've got Via the North Pole, and just some beautiful stamping in the background, of course, some sewing details and a little ideology clippings. So it's really charming. I love the sparkle. We get so much glitter this time of year. It's fun using a little rock candy to add a little shine, a little twinkle. All right, now we have Zoe Scarpelli. Here's a card that she did, and I even double checked. There you go. But I love the color palette in just these wonderful earthy tones. I also love that Santa's in a green suit. Isn't that cool? I love that. I love these in his little green suit. There's the gifts. It's got just that little touch of shimmer, a little bit of metallic on there. And then we've got just the background. So Christmas Eve, gosh, man, that's just really good. So see, I wasn't far off. I mean, Barbara and Zoe channeled the same thing. So Barbara on hers, you know, she kind of modified this sentiment a little bit. And Zoe did the same thing. She just did Christmas Eve, where that part is just stamped right there. I love that. Very, very clever. There's that postcard in the background. It just provides some great typography. And then, of course, you can see the calendar stamp there as well. And there's the tree behind Santa. So this you can just do masking. If you don't want to cut it out, you can cut out a mask for Santa and then just have the tree in the back. Because the tree, see, you can move it around depending on where you want it to be scale-wise. All right. Ooh, these are cool. Just turn to see these. All right. I'm going to guess. I hope I'm not wrong. I'm guessing this is Natifa because it's a wonderful envelope. So here we have a big stamped envelope. We've got some texture on there with some shimmer, some mica stain. I love the Santa, Christmas magic, and of course all those ticket strips just stamped in repeat to create a background. Well, let's see what's inside. Oh, look at that. Wonderful card. Beautiful Christmas card. Look at that wood slice. That's so good. And then the 25, this is where you can, I mean, if you have a number die set or a number stamp set, this is really great to pair with the wood slice. I love the little bit of faux greenery, the little ribbon, and of course the tickets and Christmas magic. That's beautiful. I love that look, that woodsy vibe that Tifa does. And I love the idea of, I mean, she just always goes all out for the envelopes, but the envelope and the card, it's a double bonus. It's a treat. All right, let me just make sure these kind of fit on frame. These are big, but I'll fit stuff in. I'll make it work. Let's start building this up. This is the one that I was like, wow, take a look at this one that Tifa did. It's using acetate to create that envelope. So stamping on that clear, this is using Forest Floor 2, those big pine branches, on this beautiful clear envelope. I mean, come on, that's cool, isn't it? That's what I was saying. It's like, wow. But then inside, she's got this wonderful transparency. I love how she just highlighted the tree. This is what I was saying about the set. Yes, he's great and jolly, but I really loved this tree imagery as well. I love the idea that this particular tree had such a feathery look to it and all of the beautiful ornaments. And so I love how she has that stamped on transparency and colored. You can see that fade that she did in the background. And then this is an ideology backdrop. So this backdrop paper. So I really love that specimen and how she cut out that oval window. Isn't that great? It's really, really beautiful. Is there a shake in there? No. I would try to shake it, but I love just the layering in there. See that little fade? So good. Not fun? And then the back, of course, there's the postcard. So, we were definitely mindful of scale in setting this up, having that postcard be able to go across the top. There's your little sentiment from Santa, and then, of course, you can mail that to someone. So I think the great part of how she created this is that when you put it into this clear envelope, you would already have all the information written on that, and it would be visible in the envelope. Let's see if I can get that back in there. That's just cool. I like that. It's such a great idea. My gosh. And then it's got a little tiny attacher right there, just stapled. So there you have the card, and then there you have it, where it's all around, and you would already have it addressed to the recipient. You probably put your postage on the outside, and off you go. That's really, really clever, Tifa. Beautiful. Really good. All right. Moving on, we have a few more. I love how they just kind of seem to get bigger and bigger in scale. So we'll see if I can fit all these on. We'll do some overlap, but that'll be all right. Paula created this card. I love the scene, again, of Santa. I love the extra gifts. I think that was a great touch of having those extra gifts to kind of finish the scene, because obviously these gifts are part of this one image, but having those separate packages, you can just continue the scene like Paula did. There's that background. We'll leave the North Pole tonight, arrive at your house Christmas Eve, and there is the tree. So beautiful coloring, a little bit of sparkly detail on that. He's a jolly soul, really is. All right. This next card, Kathy created. Let's see, what do we got? We still have quite a few, actually. Kathy created this one. Love the collage, because when you're creating this, we talked about this, and Kathy has made some really big cards. It's like Kathy and Emma are channeling this. We're going to use these images, and I couldn't love it anymore. It's so good, right? Because it makes you want to get all the pieces. But I love how she put the tree on this side. She put it behind, because any place that you want to put this, that feathery tree just really leaves that little open area. I've got Santa, and he's got just gifts everywhere. So taking that extra stamp and stamping and cutting these out. So the Santa image is stamped on the actual base of the card. This is stamped, so this is just masked. but then those extra little packages add that pop of dimension. She's got the little postcard going up the side. There's that little sparkle fade, just little skippity bits of stenciling. You don't always have to cover the whole thing from top to bottom. Ideology ephemera. There's the little holly and pine cone. That's from Home for Christmas. Gosh, the makers, they do such magical things. It's like they read my mind of like, I'm going to put all these images together. Yes, please. Please and thank you. All right. So this card Emma created. You see what I mean? Like, I love just the big scale of it. It's so fun and festive. We're going to start with the background because I always, as soon as I pick this up, I can just tell. If you haven't seen or in person the Ideology Craftstock Sparkle, it's almost an indescribable kind of paper, because I know we have a lot of glitter cardstocks in the industry, but this is not. It's just such a beautiful, subtle sparkle. I love the plaid printing on this, but it just makes for a nice little background that has a little bit of bling to it. I love how Emma has that metallic cardstock, and she even layered it behind the tickets. I mean, look at that. If you're going to cut this out, just cut it out a little bit bigger, give it that highlight. I love the ticket strip. So even though you've got that image, you can repeat the image just to create a border. We've got Santa right here, all stamped and cut out. Beautiful coloring, layered. So again, this is stamped once on the base, stamped a second time, fussy cut, and then layered. And then there is the tree. And look at the baubles. Little metallic droplets. These were old school Ideology. I love that. And I love the stars, that little stencil, and then just the postage stamp. So when Zoe Hillman used that just kind of at the base, Emma used just that part of the stamp. So that little stamp is just part of this much larger stamp. Just ink this part up, stamp it, cut it out. And now you have that little place postage stamp here. And I also love how she took that sentiment, put it on a label, and then hung it off of an old index clip from Ideology, just to make a little sign. And then we've got the sellotape. So many great details. Again, when the makers make and add all of the elements on there, you can just see that there's so many different, different aspects and personalities, even though it's the same Santa image, even down to coloring a little different. All right, we got another round of him. Just going to clear this off and bring in a few more makes. Just so inspiring. I hope you guys have been inspired. I see the chat, and I so appreciate all the love and support you are showing the makers, because they really work hard and under some really tight deadlines to get stuff done. So just a few more. We're almost done. We're just kind of wrapping up. I'll bring in these makes that Zoe Hillman created. So one is a card, and one again is that etc. So you've got, this is an etc. tag. You can see how thick that is. It is that paperboard. But there again, you can take an image and just enjoy it. Let it tell the story. So we'll start with the card. I love how Zoe stamped him, masked, and did that little tree back there, the little coloring, little inky on the background, and then of course we'll leave the North Pole. That, I don't know, it's something about that handwriting. Like that isn't a font. That was actually from a vintage piece of ephemera. But I also love the little bit of sellotape, Craftstock Sparkle. So this isn't the plaid. We actually have Craftstock Sparkle in the everyday line that's got gold and silver in the package. But see, it just adds a little bit of twinkle. Then you can see how Zoe took that little ticking stripe, did the background. There's that wonderful postcard image, the little tickets. Why tickets? Why not? It's just fun. Admit one to see Santa. There you go. And then we've got him hanging out in the chair. And I don't know, I'd see some people like maybe replacing, the package, and maybe it's holding a little tree or a bauble, or I have no idea. But I love the idea of that. I think makers are going to really tell some great stories with this. But same images, but I love how Zoe used them in just different ways, a card and etc. All right. Then we have these two cards that Cassie created. So this first one, we've got, again, Santa, but this is what I was talking about, the calendar. Now the calendar, I liked it. I liked that it was a vintage calendar. We've used it in Ideology for ephemera. Again, the 1931 was just the actual date of the calendar. We didn't need to change it. But you can use it as a background, which you've seen so many makers do because of the numbers and typography. But I also wanted to create it to a scale where it could be like on the background, like on the wall, big wallpaper. So it is big in scale, but stamping it and kind of giving it a tattered edge, it's just that December calendar, and you could, circle the 25th or, do the little X's through it. I just thought from a creative aspect, it was a fun element to add to the set. Then we've got the tree, Santa, the packages, and I love how she also just kind of folded down some of that background paper, but also the other elements in there. So even if you're like, you know what, say no to Nick. That's okay. You don't need to use that, but there's other bits. Even if you just use the postcard and the tree and the text, that's fine. I love how she just created that card using the postcard, using some of the postage stamps. These are from Ideology, that sticker book, or you can use real ones. I think these feel a little vintage to me, so these are probably real. And then just stamp that, and that's your card. So your card is of an old postcard. I think that's really clever. I love the idea. But then if you're totally feeling the postcard vibe, Anita's going to help you out with the inspiration, okay? Because you can make big, fun, festive postcards that, oh my gosh, that is super clever. I just noticed that. Nice. Oh, see, it's still nice. I thought that if it was red, it was going to be naughty. I love that on the nice list. So Anita created these just starting with the foundation of craft stock, but then you can also do mixed media, watercolor paper, anything like that. We've got the postcard up here. Then she's got that little Santa scene, and that's just in the corner. So see, that part is just off. You don't need the rest of it. He still fits great in the corner. You've got that little tiny stencil. I told you, that little holly stencil, that's gonna make an appearance because you don't really realize how important just a little detail is. Then you've got that text there, and then we've got the stamp of the label. There's so many great images that Anita used on here, even the special delivery. And then I love how she stamped nice. You're on the nice list. But isn't that fun just to kind of create these large postcards that you can send to people? I love that idea. I really do. I also love this idea if you're doing a holiday dinner. Like, this would be really great for a place setting. Absolutely would, because it's big enough in scale. You can put it right on their plate, like a charger, you know, a plate charger, or just right on their dinner plate. And I just think that it makes it so festive and so personal to have that. So it's a great idea. So these aren't cards. It's literally like a postcard. But just even the little details Anita added with those little berries and the leaves showing up everywhere. This is compartmental making. You know, pick a stamp and then stamp that same image in that certain part of all the ones you're making. And I think you can build up. I mean, Mario and I joke, you could have 250 cards in no time.
Yeah, so I was thinking, if we have over 200 samples, if we snag them all and don't send them to Ted,
oh, we're good.
Christmas cards are done.
yeah, we wouldn't do that. All right.
We're done.
Yeah.
Thanks, makers.
We've got one more make, and this one is from Alberto, and I just, again, his coloring is just, it's indescribable. I think that the talent, I love that all of the makers really have such a unique skill set, and they do what they do. And I think when I saw this, I was captivated. I was captivated by, you know, he has a completely different personality, the way Alberto colored him. I love the shading and shadow, and it has so much depth. You would think that this thing is just built up, but it's a flat piece of paper. But how he did all these little gifts just around the room, and the shadowing and shading, it's like, you know what? When you have those kind of skills, you just celebrate that. And I'm so grateful that really all the makers make for all the Tim Holtz brands and just do what they do. It's like their style using these products. They don't ever try to adapt to the way I would use it, or I could, because we would never get this magic. I could never do this. And I think that seeing all of this creativity really is inspiring. So this is the release of the 2024 Stampers Anonymous Christmas release. So fun to have all of these different stamp sets and stencils and so much inspiration for the holiday season.